All right, so our objective today, 3 angles and parallel lines. We're going to discuss when two parallel lines are cut by transversal, we will determine which ones of those pairs are congruent angles and which one of those pairs are supplementary angles. So our congruent angles are going to kind of have the same shape and they're going to kind of be in the same locations. So when we think about our different pairs that we have angles here that were a matching pair. You remember what those are called? That's right, corresponding. Let me change my marker here just a little bit. So these were corresponding angles. So all corresponding pairs are congruent. Another one we had was here. So those are outside the parallel lines and they alternate on the sides of the transversal. So these are alternate exterior. And what else did we have? We had an alternate interior. That's right. Good job. And the last one, this is one that we learned very early on. Vertical. All right, and you can have vertical angles without having parallel lines, but I just don't want you guys to forget about those. So what does that leave us with? That leaves us with consecutive interior and we also had consecutive exterior. Good job. Oh, I'm about to misspell consecutive here. And what do you think our last one is? Well, again, this was something we talked about very early on. With this pair of angles, you do not have to have parallel lines again, but it's a linear pair. So let's recap this. Congruent angles are corresponding, alternate exterior, alternate interior, or vertical angles. For supplementary angles, remember supplementary means add them together and they equal 180 degrees. We have consecutive interior, consecutive exterior, and a linear pair. So let's go to some practice problems. If we want to find the measures of all of these angles, now these lines are parallel, and so we know that the corresponding angles are congruent. So that means angle 1 and angle 42 are corresponding. So angle 1 would be 42 degrees. Now, when we look at the relationship between angle 1 and angle 2, we can see angle 1 and angle 2 make up a linear pair. That means angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180 degrees. So with a little bit of algebraic substitution, we can say the angle 2 is 180 minus 42. And I'm not going to do that math in my head right now. I'm going to get out my calculator. And my calculator tells me that 180 minus 42 is 138. All right. So now all lines are parallel. So that means these are parallel to each other, and then these two are going to be parallel to each other. I only got one angle here, and it wants me to fill in all of the other angles. So I'm actually going to fill this in on my graph so that it makes a little bit of sense to me. I would suggest that you copy that image as best you can on your piece of paper and you fill in the spaces as we go. So these are 50. All right. So the relationship between 1 and 2 is a linear pair. So that means angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180 degrees. So 180 degrees minus 50, I can do that in my head real easy. That's only 130. All right, 50 and angle 3 are alternate interior, so they're congruent. 50 degrees and angle 4 are consecutive interior, and they would equal 180. So 180 minus 50 gives me 130 again. 50 degrees and angle 5, those are alternate interior, and they're also congruent. 5 and 6 are vertical, so 6 will be 50. Angle 6 and angle 7 are same side interior, so when I add those together, they equal 180. So to figure out angle 7, I say 180 subtract 50. That gives me my 130 again. And then 7 and 8 are vertical angles, so angle 8 would be 130 degrees. Now that was some pretty easy math I could do in my head, but that's how it works. More examples. Again, I'm just filling in these empty spaces. So I'm looking for the different relationships. Straight across is vertical. 38 and this other side is going to be 180. So pretty much 180 is a pretty popular number in geometry. 38, 142. So this will be 142. 142. Now 38 degrees. So this is going to be 38, 142, 142, and 38. And it's going to kind of be the same thing for example 4. That's going to be 122. Again, I'm not doing a number that's not nice and even or nice and round. That's going to be 58 and 122, 58, 58, 122. Oh, and this one's 58. All right. So I think I've got it down pretty good when I've got just some numbers involved. Let's throw in some algebra. So first thing you want to know is that these lines are parallel. And if I extended these lines out just a little bit, you can see that I've got a transversal here. So what does that square indicate again? Yes, 90 degrees. So when I say 2x plus 90, what will it equal? Right, they're consecutive. I forgot to say they're consecutive interior. So let's pull out my little handy dandy Desmos, my little buddy. 90. So let's find what x is. X is 45. Is that what I needed to find? Yes, find the values of x and y. So I'm going to change colors here. I'm going to go to a dark green, and we're going to look at the y. So I have the same kinds of angles. Y plus y minus 50 equals 180. So let's go back to my buddy. X, remember I'm typing in x so that I'm consistent all the time. What am I getting here? X is 115, so that means Y equals 115. Okay. And B is really the same thing too. Let's switch to purple. So here's my parallel lines. I'm just extending the figure out some, and then I'm extending that transversal out some. So this time, my two angles in question are what kind of angles? Well, I've got one on the outside of the parallel line and one on the inside. Those are corresponding. Corresponding angles, if you go back to our page number 1, corresponding pairs are congruent. 2x minus 6 equals 80 degrees. So when they're congruent, I'm going to set them equal to each other. 2x minus 6 equals 80. X is 43. All right. Got a few more examples to go. It's just some more practice on spotting what these relationships are and then whether or not they're congruent or they equal 180 degrees. So I'm looking at angle 3 and I'm looking at angle 11. So what kind of angles are those? Well, they're on parallel lines. I'm marking the parts that they're touching, and I can see that those are corresponding. So corresponding angles are congruent. So 4x plus 6. So let me write this out. Angle 3 is congruent to angle 11. So 4x plus 6 equals 126. That should not be a negative. It should be an equal sign, and I'm not quite sure why that didn't show up. But here we go. 4x plus 6 equals 126. Oh, 126. X equals 30. All right, next example. We're looking at angle 1 and angle 8. So it's touching this line and now it's touching these lines. So angle 1 and angle 8 are on the outside of parallel lines and they're on the same side. So these are consecutive exterior. Now, if you don't remember what consecutive exterior lines were, go back to our page 1. Consecutive exterior, they're under the supplementary column. So that means that if they're supplementary, when I add them together, they're going to equal 180. So 100 plus 2x plus 10 equals 180. See what Desi's got to say about this. Equals 180. And Desi tells me that x is 35. All right, so glad I have my best friend there with me. Last example. Now I'm looking at angle 11 and I'm looking at angle 16. So I'm highlighting the lines that it's touching. All right, angle 16, angle 11. All right, so I've got one on one side of the transversal and one on the other side. And let's see, what's going on here? One's on the inside and one's on the outside. Wait a minute, this one This one doesn't have a direct. This is no direct pair. However, how can I manipulate this so that I can get a direct pair? So let's see. 11, so let me ask you this. There's a couple of different things you can do here. Look for an angle that has the same measurement as 11. All right? So we could look at, and I'm going to mark these with a different color. So these are my possibilities that I can choose from. 9 has got the same measure, and 15 has the same measure as 11, right? Oh, and 13. 13 has the same measure. So how could I use one of those measures, one of those angles, 9, 13, or 15? Could I use one of those angles and develop a relationship with angle 16? Yeah, I could. I got a couple of different choices. Angle 16 and angle 13 are a linear pair. Angle 16 and angle 15 are a linear pair. Angle 16 and angle 9 are consecutive. I'm spelling consecutive wrong again, guys. Consecutive exteriors. What do all three of those have in common? They equal 180 when you add them together. So we're going to use a couple of things here. We're going to use substitution. That's the first thing we're going to use to figure out how to solve for x. So it doesn't really matter, just pick one. I'm going to go with angle 15. Angle 16 plus angle 15 equals 180. Angle 16, so here's my substitution. And I'm going to substitute angle 15 with angle 11. So angle 15 equals angle 11. Remember? That's what we started out with. So what was angle 11? It was 3x minus 5. So right here, there's all my substitutions that I've made. And now, I feel like I did all the hard work in this problem. I feel like Desi's got the easy job this go round. That was a lot of thinking and a lot of matching up that I had to do to get what I needed in order to solve for x. I made all kinds of typing errors here, so let's double check. 2x plus 20 plus 3x minus 5 equals 180. X equals 33. So in some of the problems, you've got to make a couple of substitutions before you can find a relationship in order to answer the question that the problem's asking.